Hey everyone, this is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA. Today we're going to be talking about the first step to take when selling to retail chains. So if you have a great product that you think would be perfect for retail chains and you want to know what the first step would be, we're going to give you some quick tips and things to think about in regards to that. With that said, let's get started on today's training. So what is the first step in selling to a retail chain? It's a really common question that comes up in our workshops and classes. The answer is very simple. You need to have a plan in place that actually will convert. So the plan is more important than the action steps. The plan has to make sense for that particular retail chain. Buyers are looking at products all day long, every single day. You can reach out to them all the time. The problem is that they're not going to respond. Most people who reach out to retail chains never get a response. 98% of the people who come to me might have already tried to sell to stores and they've ignored them or blown them off because of the fact that they're just not saying the things that the buyer cares about and or did not do their prep work in order to ensure that the buyer just doesn't chuckle at them. That's what these buyers are doing most of the time. Unfortunately, they're chuckling at you. It's just really because you don't get them. You don't care about them. You care about yourself. And it's not an insult. It's just that you don't understand their business. And honestly, they are busy. And after a while, they just get consumed with what they're doing and they don't have the patience to explain themselves. Also, they have day jobs. They have bosses breathing down their necks. They have to come up with products that are actually going to convert. And the last thing they need is someone to come to them with something that is not planned out well. So let's talk about that plan. There's many things you got to do in order to prepare the plan. I always say it's 80% planning, 20% actual reaching out, selling. That's how retail chain stores are. One of the things you can do is literally get in your car and start going to stores and taking a look at the stores you want to sell to and figuring out where else your product could fit in that particular store beyond what you're doing. The reason I say that is because if you have a product that is similar to everyone else in that store, it's going to be very difficult for a buyer to pick your product up. But if you can look around and say to yourself, okay, is there anywhere else or anything I can do to adjust my product to ensure success? If you can't see a nice gap in their assortment for your product, meaning very few people are selling your existing product, which is hard to do these days, the trick there is to go and see where else your product could fit. It's just a strategy. It's a planning. Maybe you can't, but if you can, you hit the mother load. So let me give you an example of that. I had a client who basically had a makeup thing that she created. There was nothing unique about this product except for she loved it and she did really well with her audience, right? But with chain stores, they'd look at it and they would say, it's just like everybody else and your name's not big enough and whatever, right? So this cosmetic product, I think it was a makeup, and it looked regular. So I had to dig deeper and I said, what is so interesting and innovative about your product that's different than everybody else? She listed a bunch of stuff, nothing interesting. And then she said, no offense to her, which is why I don't say her name, but I can use it as an example. She said, it's good for people who sweat because it doesn't fall off your face. And I said, why is that the case? And she says, because I'm an older woman and I hate makeup that falls off my face because maybe I have menopause and I'm sweaty or whatever. And so I said, oh, that's very unique, right? Not all makeups do that. So what we decided to do was to try selling the existing product as a makeup product to that retailer. But what I recommended her doing was to change it up for different category of a human and then sell it to another buyer. So for instance, if it's good for sweating, people who are active, sports, and so forth would probably really like it. They don't want their stuff running down their face. She repackaged it simply by putting some pictures of some exercising people, actually sold the product, right? Sometimes it requires you to do that kind of research to figure out what your angle is if it's a really competitive marketplace and or there's nothing interesting about your product versus everyone else's. Unfortunately, most products are not that interesting these days to buyers, so these are ways that you can swap it out. She also went a different angle in terms of older women demographic, and then there was a section of the store where she could put it there. Or she just put a different picture on the box of the person that she wants to sell to, and then all of a sudden it's interesting and new, right? Because no one else has the imagery of someone of a different age or whatever for this particular type of product, and or different verbiage explaining that on the packaging and so forth. Hopefully you get my point. Recon work to figure out where it is that you're innovative, and if you can't quite get it, here's another example. For some reason today we're just going to be in the cosmetics examples. This guy had all these different moisturizers and stuff for the face he was selling. Very difficult to sell in this category. I'm using this as an example because I'm picking really hard categories. Some categories are easier than others, product categories. So he had a whole slew of products that he was selling for the face and body. And I looked at them, and he would want to go and try and sell the whole brand to a store, right? Buyer's not going to get that excited about it. He's a new name, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't have a fortune to spend on ads and all these things to the level that they would need for a category like this. So what I told him was, give me something interesting, super innovative, thrilling out of all the stuff that maybe isn't in stores. And so he walked around stores, looked around the store shelves, and what he found is that no one was selling a neck cream to smooth out wrinkles or whatever. And so they were selling all this other stuff, but the neck cream that he had was a little bit unique. So he and I created a plan for him to sell his neck cream first because that was the most interesting product he had. And he got his product into the world's largest retailers because he showed the neck stuff, and then he showed the rest of the products, and then he got a variety of different products in their stores because he showed up as innovative. Our goal here is just to give you a first step example of things you can do to get a retailer to pay attention to you. And innovation and uniqueness is usually something that comes up a lot. Now, there's a lot of other things I can say about first steps in selling in stores, but I think that recon work, preparing that plan, coming up with the right story is where the money is going to be at for you. And I've seen it time and time again where people tried for years to get in stores. We look at the product, we figure out the angle, and then we help the person, and then they move on with their lives and make a bunch of money and enjoy their lives. And that's what we want for you. So if that's something you're interested in, we would love to work with you. We have a Retail MBA coaching and training system listed on retailmba.com, where we actually look at people's products and support them and so forth. But ultimately, we do this with our master classes, our live events, and so forth. So please join anything that we do. And if your product's ready today for stores, we also have a done-for-you service. This is Karen Waksman, Retail MBA. We are thrilled to support you with retail. Hope this helped.